Hello, CLC. So this week we're going to be spending some time talking about different types of career pathways. So I'm talking about things that you can consider doing after high school, such as an apprenticeship program, a college program, or a university program. I remember back in high school, I was pretty confused on what all of these different terms meant. So before I send you off to research a little bit about some of the programs you might be interested in, I'm going to take some time to look at some of the vocabulary and just give you kind of an understanding, hopefully, of what exactly a college or university program would look like. So college and university are the ones that are the most confusing because they are similar in quite a few ways. Some significant differences between a college and university program is cost. So colleges are typically cheaper. They cost around $3,000 per year. Yes, that's a lot of money. Universities usually typically on the more expensive end, be around $5,000 per year. So that's 2 semesters, or sitting a little bit more expensive depending on your program, could be around $10,000 per year. So this is very dependent on what type of program you're taking. A nursing program is going to cost different than a visual art program or a film program. But typically university programs are much more expensive. In the States, this could cost you around $20,000 to $30,000 per year. So we're very fortunate in Canada that a lot of our university funds are paid in part by tax dollars, which is convenient for you. College, typically smaller class sizes, around 30 students per class. Universities are typically a little bit larger. There's around 30 to 300 students per class. My fine arts program was quite a bit smaller. There was around 20 people, and that was a university program, so it's not an end-all be-all, but there are quite large classes in university. So your math class potentially went from 30 kids to 300 kids, and that's very standard and typical in university. College, they don't typically have a residence option, so you can't necessarily live on a college campus. So you'd be commuting to school. If you went to a college that wasn't close enough to where you lived, you would have to relocate. And then one of the more significant things is what you get at the end of this college program is a college program will offer certificates, diplomas. Sometimes they offer bachelor's degrees. Universities will offer certificates, diplomas, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and PhD degrees. So these degrees are going to happen after a bachelor's degree. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. But you want to know, depending on what job you're looking for, you're going to need a certain type of degree or diploma to be eligible. So you want to make sure that you've gone to the right place to get that thing and not spend 4 years getting the wrong thing. Apprenticeship and trades programs are often kind of overlooked and seen as a lesser, but really there's a lot of jobs in the trades right now. And one thing that's really exciting about trades is they've got a considerably lower cost compared to universities. And there's a lot of free money that is given away to trade students to encourage people to get into the trades, because a lot of the trades are kind of in major need of people for jobs. Often you can actually get paid while going to school to do an apprenticeship. So you're actually not only saving quite a bit on your tuition, but you're actually making money as you're at school, which is awesome. It's smaller class sizes. You're typically sitting around 30 students per class or lower. It's very hands-on. So instead of being in a lecture hall, you're going to be learning how to do a trade hands-on as well as on the job. So then you might get to accompany someone, for example, who's a plumber to go do their work with them and slowly get more and more responsibility. So if you enjoy hands-on learning, I think I definitely would have pursued the trades if I hadn't pursued teaching, because I'm definitely a hands-on learner. That would be a really great option for you. Apprenticeship programs offer things like certificates. There's different training levels, so you don't necessarily need to get to a certain level if you only really want to be responsible for a certain level of, for example, electrical. or a Red Seal program, which is a program that's recognized across the different provinces. So if I train to be an electrician in BC, if I get my Red Seal, I'm trained to be an electrician in other provinces, which is really awesome and convenient. So it's a provincially recognized program. In terms of colleges, there's 11 colleges in BC, one of them being Douglas College, Camosun College, Langara College, and Vancouver Community College. So those are some options for colleges. They offer different types of programs. In terms of universities, there's 10 in BC. UBC, UVic, Capilano, the University of Fraser Valley, Vancouver Island University, and SFU are the ones that are nearby where we are. But there's also the University of Kelowna and a couple others. There's also these things called institutes, which often offer programs in the trades. So BCIT is one that offers a lot of trades programming, Justice Institute, and the NVIT, which is another technology institute. So that's a place you can go. So in a typical setting, in terms of a college or university, it's quite a different experience. I remember being quite shocked by just how many people were in some of my classes, which most of were on the Smolin because I have a visual arts degree. But your typical university classroom looks a little bit like this. It's a giant lecture hall. A lot of people bring computers. There's not always rules about whether or not you can have your lunch there. Sometimes people bring coffee, and then you'll have a professor that stands at the front of the room and he'll deliver a lecture. So that could be a PowerPoint, or he might just be drawing on the board, and you are expected to just take notes. So there's no template for you to write in. He's not necessarily going to tell you what is important versus what's not important. So you're left to a lot of your own devices. So this is kind of an idea of what a university campus would look like. So a college classroom is going to be a lot smaller and a little bit more hands-on. If you're going to university, you might decide that you would like to go to somewhere further away from home, and you might decide to live on residence. So this is kind of an idea of what a dorm looks like. I didn't stay in a dorm because I did university back home in Winnipeg, and I commuted on the bus from my parents' house. So that's where I did university. So I never had the college or dorm experience. I can imagine there's lots of things that are quite positive about the dorm experience. You get your own little space. You get some opportunity to kind of live on your own. But what I've done to kind of give you guys an idea of more what living on residence, so on the college campus, looks like, I've got a little video I'm going to show you. Okay, so credentials. So this is the thing that comes out of a university or college program. This is what you're going to end up with. So a certificate, when they say you receive a certificate, it's usually a 6 to 12 month program. You might receive a certificate to do a certain type of thing. Diploma is usually typically 1 to 2 years, and you'd receive a diploma at the end, which would be good for things like being an educational assistant. Bachelor's degree or Red Seal typically takes around 4 to 5 years. A master's degree takes 2 years, but it happens after a bachelor's degree. So then you would be looking at around 6 years of university, and a PhD degree is 4 years after a master's. So if we look 4 years for a bachelor's, 2 years for a master's, 4 years there, we're looking at around 10 years of schooling. PhD degrees are really reserved for certain types of professions. Only very few people really require that to do their job effectively. My teacher's program, for example, was composed of 2 bachelor's degrees, but the second one was a little bit shorter. So that first one was 4 years for my visual art degree, and then 2 years for a Bachelor of Education or teacher certification. So the amount of time that you're spending in school and what you're getting out of it after is very dependent on kind of what kind of classes you're taking. Some important vocab to be aware of when you're researching universities, because because it can get kind of a little bit confusing. A faculty. So a faculty is a group of programs with a similar theme, and they're kind of like your academic home base as a student. So for example, the Faculty of Education would be where all of the teachers were taking their various courses. So someone might be just studying to be a math teacher, someone might be studying to be a science teacher, but they're all part of this Faculty of Education, and they'll have some courses that are the same and some courses that are different than other people in the program. Social sciences, science, fine arts, etc. So these are all kind of ideas, and these are referred to as faculties. Major and minor. So in university, you're part of a faculty, but you get to specialize with some certain things. So a major is like your main specialty, and a minor is like a secondary specialty. So this would be the specific area that you're studying within the faculty. The majority of classes you've taken are to do with this area. So when I was at the Faculty of Education, my major was in visual art teaching, so arts education, and then my minor was in teaching French. So minor is an additional subject that complements your major or is of interest to you. You take less courses in total than a major. So you're going to have a certain amount of classes that are this and a certain amount of classes that are your minor. So in sciences, for example, my major could be in biochemistry and my minor could be in earth science. Some other important vocab. A co-op. Great opportunity. It's a paid work in a field connected to what you're studying. So in engineering programs, computer science programs, and I can't remember, a couple of other programs in university, you have the opportunity to take a co-op. The university pays, well, they don't pay you, but they pair you up with an employer who interviews you. You have to be a suitable candidate. And what they'll do is for part of your coursework, you'll actually get to work in the field and you'll get paid for that work that you're doing. Other important vocab, really important to know, pre-request. So a pre-request is certain courses cannot be taken before other courses. So you might need to take Math 101 before you take Math 102. So it's a required course that you need to have before taking another course. Undergraduate or undergrad. Undergraduate is a student that is pursuing a bachelor's degree. So if you remember, kind of in my path in education is I'm first kind of in high school, and then if I decided to go to university, I would be pursuing a bachelor's degree. And then if I wanted to continue on with my university studies, I could do a master's degree after. So undergraduate or undergrad is referring to programs that are for students who are just outside of high school. Or it's their first kind of university experience. It's like an intro to the things versus a master's program or a PhD program. You're getting very, very, very specialized and higher up in your field. Academic advising / advisors. So there are people who work for post-secondary schools that are really knowledgeable about the programs and courses. They're kind of a little bit like counselors, but not necessarily for mental health or physical well-being. They're more talking and giving you advice about what kind of courses you should take to kind of end up in a certain job or field, which is quite confusing because universities and colleges are a little bit confusing. So it's nice to know that you can reach out if you don't understand. Some major differences between high school and post-secondary. In a high school, everyone attends the same classes at the same time on weekdays. Post-secondary is a little bit different in terms of schedule, and some of this is very wonderful and some of this can be kind of frustrating. So post-secondary, you have your own schedule. You might have evening classes. I had some classes that started at 6 o'clock and went all the way till 9 p.m., and then I'd come home and do a little bit of homework and then go to bed. Sometimes you have Saturday classes or online classes. So that's kind of a thing that can happen. You might be able to schedule all of your school days to be like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for example, and then have really long days, or have shorter days and have maybe like a 3-hour class each day. So the schedule is kind of designed in part by you, but also based on kind of when the courses are available and which ones you can get into. So you have some control, but also not as much control. Classes are quite a bit larger in post-secondary. They're usually between 10 to 450 people, so they can be quite big, so it's hard to get used to, versus high school classes are around 35 people maximum. So you haven't got a teacher that's checking in on you all the time, because they can't. And you definitely feel a lot more kind of anonymity in a post-secondary institution because you don't necessarily get to know everyone in your class. You might only have a few select friends. Light readings that you can often skip from textbooks. So high school doesn't really give readings. But in post-secondary, reading is kind of a major component that I was definitely surprised by. So you might be asked to read 20, 30 pages from the textbook for every lesson, so every other day. There could be really intense academic journal articles or websites or various other sources. So there's often a lot of reading that is required in post-secondary that you're expected to keep up with. High school, frequent tests and assignments, each worth a small percentage of your grades. So teachers, it might feel like you have lots of homework, but it's also because teachers are trying to get you into the habit of completing it and not making you feel like you only have an opportunity like 3-4 times a year to do well on an assignment. Post-secondary, many classes only have a few tests or exams or assignments, each worth a large percentage. So you could take a course for 4 months and only have 4 things that made up your grade, including exams that could be worth up to 40 or 60% of your grade. In high school, attendance is always taken because your teachers are responsible for you attending and being there, and you're responsible for some of your learning. In post-secondary, attendance is not usually taken. It might be taken on the first couple classes, but it's not usually taken. High school homework is usually not checked. So I'm just hoping that you complete your homework. Sometimes I'll check to kind of make you build in the habit. Post-secondary, homework is not usually checked either. High school teachers check on you to make sure you're keeping up with things. So I might come bug you about an assignment that was due in a couple days, or I'll give you a reminder saying that the assignment's due tomorrow, give you some extra class time to work on it. Post-secondary, it's absolutely your own responsibility to make sure you're keeping up and be an advocate for yourself. So if you decide not to show up to all your classes, as attendance is not usually taken, and don't complete any of the assigned readings or homework to kind of help you practice and prepare for the exams, if you failed the course, your professor probably didn't even really notice, which is one of the scarier things about post-secondary is it's a lot of self-reliance, and you have to be an advocate for yourself and build in those kind of habits. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of a peek of what the assignment looks like. So what you're going to do is it's called Exploring Your Pathways. As always with any of my assignments, since we went to online learning, you can print this document and handwrite your answers if you prefer that, or write out your answers just on loose leaf or type it directly into this document. So this document will be up on Teams and you should be able to type directly into it. So what you're going to do is you're going to watch the lesson that I just went through first. So I've linked that here. Part 2 is complete your personal profile. So this is going to give you an idea about exactly what you might be looking for in a post-secondary experience. Maybe you're looking for a college program. Maybe you're looking for a university program. Maybe you want to look at both. Maybe you want to look at an apprenticeship program. So your profile should kind of guide you on that kind of perspective. So this will help guide your research for post-secondary programs. These are all examples of post-secondary programs. Of course, the one pathway that we haven't really talked about is that, of course, you could just begin working. Maybe you want to be a manager at a Best Buy, or maybe your family owns a grocery store and you'd like to continue that tradition. That's awesome. I'm not saying that isn't a potential pathway that you could take. But there's not really any research that you would need to do in terms of what that program would look like. So what I'd like you to do is, if that is your option, that's awesome. But I'd like you to look at one of the programs here. So either an apprenticeship program, university, or a college program. If you want to, I've asked you to research 2 of these more specifically. If you want to research 2 apprenticeship programs or an apprenticeship program and a university program, that's fine. So you can kind of mix and match, do 2 college programs if you prefer that. I want you to first kind of consider the information that you've gathered over the past couple weeks. So you went on My Blueprint and you did the career cluster project. Maybe there were some jobs that you'd never really thought about that you were like, oh, that's so cool. I wonder what kind of education I would need. You can look in those. You can also visit this really awesome website. It's called Career Trek BC. And there's videos of what kind of the day-to-day life of certain careers is, which is kind of neat. So if you're really interested in exactly what it looks like to be a baker or an automotive technician, there's little quick episodes that'll kind of show you their day-to-day life. So those are really great. Oops. So you're going to fill out this. I'd like you to answer each of the following in complete sentences with the most detail possible. So what job do you see yourself doing? What job are you specifically looking for? What kind of interests do you have? Do you have a target job? You could just say, I'm really interested in sciences, but I don't really know what I would do with it. That's fine, okay? So that's kind of the point of the career cluster project from last week, is that you could have an idea about what kind of field you want to go into, but not necessarily about what exactly you want to do in that field. Where do you want to live? Super important. On a campus, in a residence, or at home? What are ways you're considering paying for post-secondary? So post-secondary, as we looked at, can be up to $10,000, $15,000. It can be quite expensive. Are your parents going to help support you? To what extent? Maybe you should sit down and ask them. Savings, should you be putting away money from your part-time job right now? Should you be getting a part-time job if you're looking at going to the University of Toronto? Are you planning on working while in post-secondary? It can be difficult to balance a job at the same time as post-secondary. Maybe you want to do post-secondary part-time. Are there any scholarships you should be considering, or loans, etc.? What do you value in a post-secondary education? What are you looking for? Are you looking for the experience of living on your own, meeting new people, making new friends, smaller classes, larger classes? Do you want to be able to make connections with your professors and classmates? Or hands-on learning and studying what you like? So give me an idea of what you're kind of looking for. You're going to begin by exploring some post-secondary programs. So you've already kind of decided what you might be looking for. Sorry, I've got a little bit of the hiccups. And then you're going to spend some time researching and considering programs that you might like to do after high school. So just spend some time kind of flipping through some different school websites. What sounds appealing? What do you like? Don't worry too much about just what exactly you're going to research, but just kind of take a peek. What I would recommend doing is first consulting My Blueprint or My Education Planner BC. They are databases that you can use to look up a bunch of different careers. Okay, so I'll give you kind of an idea of what those look like. So I've provided the link for them both here. You guys have already seen My Blueprint. I'm going to show you My Education Planner BC first, so you can kind of see the difference. Central purpose is it's a bunch of post-secondary websites that have been kind of organized and accessible for you guys to kind of compare and look at programs. It's got a whole kind of step-by-step process of how to plan your education, thinking about how you're going to pay for it, how to apply for it, and kind of what the end result of a potential program could be. You can look at undergraduate, apprenticeship programs, as well as graduate and institutional community options. And then it's got an applying feature, so you can actually apply directly to a lot of these post-secondary institutions through this specific website, which is great because then you don't have to deal with as many different platforms if you want to apply for more than one. The search feature is kind of primarily what I want you guys to look at. It's got lots of different filters, so if you're really interested in going to BCIT but you don't really know exactly what you want to take there, if you go here, put the filter and just hit search, these are all of the different programs BCIT has to offer. and you can take a look at some of the ones that you're particularly interested in. So there's some diploma programs, so it's a little bit of a college as well as it's got some apprenticeship programs. So you could do your search in that way by either region or institution. Maybe you know that you want to be close to home. By subject area, so maybe you don't really know exactly what you want to take, but you're really, really interested in sciences. So for example, I could click on sciences. It'll start pairing me up with some different programs related to science, just in general. So I could look at UBC's Vancouver program. They've got programs for biology, they've got programs for biochemistry, etc. Be cautious because there are some master's programs that are mixed in here. You want to make sure that you're looking at a bachelor's degree, not a master's degree. You can also search by program lengths. Maybe you know that you really can't handle being in school for less than a year. You want to make sure that you're in and out real quick. Program credentials, you want to make sure you're ending up with a degree. Because you don't want a diploma. Those are some options. If you're really interested in co-op experience, you could use that, or other work experience opportunities. When you get into a program that you're looking for, another way you can do it is you can do it based on your kind of interest of study. So for example, I could say I'm interested in painting. Oh, that didn't work. Maybe if I put in visual art, it'll work. Yes, okay. So under visual art, I've got a bunch of different programs. Maybe I'm really excited about going to Emily Carr for visual art. Maybe I would really like to focus on animation. Looks like there's a couple different animation programs. I'm gonna pick this one. And then on the Education Planner BC website, you're actually going to get a lot of the information that I'm asking you to find in the next section of this assignment. So how long it will take, what's the cost per year, what's the cost for books, when's the deadline. If you go back to here, so that's fast facts, admission info. This is how you're admitted. This is what they're looking for for high school. Different kind of things related to whether or not you're coming from another country as an international student, or if you're coming out of province, and then different kind of occupations that could come out of this degree. So if you want to double check that you've actually got a program that would suit you, this is where you can come back. And then what I would encourage you to do, especially for the programs that you're particularly interested in, this can give you some information, but it's not going to give you really a flavor for the school. I would go visit their website. So again, I just went under apply now. There's a visit. So that'll send me directly to Emily Carr's website. Talks about their admissions, academics, and then it should link you directly to the specific program you were looking at. It's going to give a more in-depth explanation of exactly what it is. It might give you some examples of things that people make in the program or learn about in the program. And then just might link you to some other ideas of things you could take. So if you're finding that you're really interested in exploring, for example, Emily Carr's website, you could keep kind of going with that. So we go back to our thing. So that's My Education Planner BC. I've linked a tutorial about how to use the website, though I've already given you some tips. So if you want to use that, I'm going to link a tutorial of how to use Blueprint. Okay, so in Blueprint, you can go in a couple different ways. You can go either under post-secondary and look specifically through here, or what I recommend is if you go back under work and occupations, what you can do is you can do your similar kind of job search. So either just kind of going through them, filtering kind of one by one, or you could type them in directly. So if maybe I'm really interested in being a pilot, I spelled pilot wrong. Oops. Here's some advice about how to do piloting. I click on pilot. It's got my same kind of description. So if you're kind of still not really sure about what job you want to do, this might be a good place to start instead of My Education Planner BC. It's got some advice, important skills, other occupations that are similar. Again, the outlook. So are there lots of jobs? Yes, in British Columbia, maybe a little bit less in Manitoba. The salary, things like that. These are actual specific job postings that are live right now, which is kind of cool that you can actually see that. Requirements. So this is where it's going to link us to post-secondary jobs. So you don't need to necessarily have on-the-job training. What's saying is you need college and university. It's not an apprenticeship program for piloting. And then here's where I want to talk about it. So these are requirements, things you need in addition to your degree. So you need a commercial pilot's license to be a pilot. That's also kind of in addition to a degree. There'd be some tests that you needed to complete to properly have that. And then it's got a view programs thing. So again, this is just another way to kind of end up looking at a program. I would just use whichever one is working faster for you, which is probably going to be My Education Planner BC, but this is an alternative. So I can look specifically, BCIT's got a program. Looks like Okanagan has a program. One thing that's really great about this is that it's going to give you some other options for places that aren't in BC. So My Education Planner BC is only for BC universities. But this one, of course, is sending you to the University of Waterloo. So you can, again, if you want to, let's say we want to go to Waterloo. It talks a little bit about the program, gives you some basic information about it, what you might need. And then if you want to, what you can do is you can go visit program website. And then it'll do the same thing that My Education Planner BC did for us. And then it will actually talk about the program here. So those are some kind of suggestions there. So again, you can use My Blueprint or My Education Planner BC, but I would like you to spend some time on the actual institution's website because it's going to give you more of an idea of what the institution is like, as opposed to just kind of assuming based on the little information that's on here. Okay. So first things first is spend some time just kind of exploring, look at a couple different things. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to decide on 2 programs. And in those 2 programs, you're going to write down this kind of information to show me that you've really looked into the program. A lot of this information is going to be available on that first page of My Education Planner BC. Oh, I closed it. Darn. It's also going to be on Blueprint. So program length, tuition, all of that kind of stuff, how long it is there co-op, is going to be on My Education BC. I've written some information in red to kind of give you examples of what exactly you might be writing there. Typical class size might be kind of hard to find, but it is good information to know so you can kind of make sure that you're meeting the goals that you set out in your profile. Program pre-request, this is talking about the courses that you might need to take that program. So you're going to list all of the courses here. You might need to expand this, that's fine. Or decrease the font, either way. Make sure these are the most important questions. They talk about what you think the place would be like, why you want to be there. Make sure you're adding that information for both of those pathways here. And then I'd like a short little reflection talking about why you chose these 2 pathways that you've talked about. So you're going to talk about one here, one here. This could be a nursing program through KPU, and this one could be a nursing program through UBC. So they can be leading to the same job, but they should be two distinct programs. So either in two different universities or for two different jobs. Maybe one could be an apprenticeship program, one could be a college program. Okay. So short little reflection about why you chose these specific pathways. So what interests you about this specific aviation program? Why do you want to do it? Do you think it's a good fit for you? What interests you about this specific nursing program? So 250 words, kind of combining both of your responses to why you chose these specific programs. And then what I'd like you to do, this one should be a pretty quick, easy task, is you're planning for the near future. You've already planned your courses for grade 11, so this should be really nice and straightforward. You're just going to come in and either highlight what you've decided to take in yellow or red, or just delete the thing that you're not taking. So you've got circle or highlight one for each of these options. If you took both sciences or two sciences, you can pop that into your elective section. So maybe I decided I really love science. I want to take chem, geo, and physics. So those could be some of my electives. You have to take Career Life Connections in either grade 10 or in either grade 11 or 12. So decide when you want to take it, and you can put your elective in the other space. And then social studies. This is just a little note that you do need to have a fine arts or applied course as one of your electives from grade 10, 11, or 12. Okay, so that's your assignment. Don't hesitate to reach out for help if you're confused or unsure of where to start.